Catus. Maximus here. This is just a quick review of this old vintage Montgomery Ward Powr-Kraft builder's level. These are actually not little telescopes for people who may not be aware of what they are. They do come in simpler versions. This would be considered a more standard mechanical version. These are the same things that you'll see not just at construction sites, but if they're doing some type of work, street work or something, street construction, you'll see guys standing. Some people may be standing a distance away with a vertical pole, and then they'll have on a tripod a weird machine that looks like a big pod. Those are known as total stations, and they're digital electronic versions of essentially these. What these do is allow you to measure heights across the ground. And say if you're building on a slight slope and you have different elevations of, say, footings, this is how you actually measure while standing in one place exactly how high something needs to be. And that is done through a very simple property, is that these are mounted on heavy-duty tripods such as these. And part of this review is a warning. These old ones use proprietary mounting, and I made that mistake, and I have to dig up or have a machine shop make an adapter that will work with the current standard, which has been the standard for a few decades, 5/8 the actual same thread pitch that's on an angle grinder. On the old ones, once again, there are proprietary threads, and you have to have special adapters, which is annoying. But you have these heavy-duty tripods. You set these up, and you get them real level. On more modern versions of these, like a David White, they'll actually have a built-in bubble level, and you can see down through the bottom of the unit to make sure that the tripod is as level as possible when you're starting off. On older ones, such as this, they come with little plumb bobs that you would just hang from a string, and then make sure that's centered in the legs of the tripod. Once you have the tripod pretty well centered, then this unit has little, in this case, 4 little adjustment feet. And that's what you'd use to precisely level this out until the bubble is nice and even. And that's the one thing you never touch, is these screws, these adjustments on this bubble, because this bubble is calibrated to be perfectly level with the eyesight in here. So when you get this up or set up on the tripod, you know that the crosshair, when you look through the eyepiece, and it does have a little bit of a focus, is perfectly level. So when somebody's holding what is a 6 foot or just under 2 meter yardstick, and it just looks like a measuring stick with really coarse graduations, when somebody's holding that, you'll look across this, and when the crosshair is, say, at 2 feet, you know that the bottom of the stick is exactly 2 feet below the eyepiece here. And then you say, oh, I need another footing that's 3 feet. You keep this at the exact same position. You may twist it or rotate it a little bit. There's a lock, and you would rotate it some to point at the new position, and they dig the hole down and tell you when you're looking across, you're right at the exact spot where it's at the 3 foot mark, and that's how you get precise elevations. Now, slightly nicer ones like this also have a pretty unique ability. Let me unscrew it from the base here. Here's a better look at it. I mean, this old Powr-Kraft, I'm not sure who made it, but it was obviously a professional brand, because the castings and everything are really super nice on this unit. There's our 4 pegs, and then there's our really special proprietary mount. Surprisingly heavy because of all the cast aluminum on it. So in the base situation, it has this cross lever which traps this little beam, so that makes sure that this bubble is essentially level with the platform. But you can do triangulation, and that would involve releasing this little fine adjustment, and then you can actually tilt it up and down. And it actually has graduations down here, and it can actually tilt up and down quite a bit, over 40 degrees. And so you can actually use it to measure heights besides using the yardstick method through triangulation. Although it's not quite as precise as physically, measuring using the yardstick method, but you need to figure out a triangle. You need 3 pieces of information. They can be any 3 pieces: 3 angles, 3 lengths of the different lines, 2 angles and 1 line, 2 lines and 1 angle, etc. How you'd use this for triangulation is you'd set it up, and one is you'd set it up at first to be absolutely level, like you'd normally use it. Say you're measuring how high a tree is, for instance. So you'd set up absolutely level, pointing right at the trunk of the tree. And then at that point, you need something like a laser distance measure or just a regular old, 100-foot or whatever long cloth tape. And you need to measure from the center line of the builder's level to the trunk of the tree, and say that's 100 feet or something. Then what you would do is you have one piece of information, one of the legs of the triangle is 100 feet. You also know that this is absolutely level and pointing right at a tree trunk, which is going straight up. That gives you an angle. That gives you 90 degrees. So now we have two pieces of information. We have a 100-foot leg, and we have a 90-degree angle. And then what we would do is we would release this, and we would tilt this up until we get it to, say, the very tip top of the tree. And say, depending on our difference, maybe we'd reach 15 degrees. And that's pretty interesting. I should also mention that this moves freely, and so this is a lock, so you get it right into the right position. You do this lock, and then attached to the lock lever is a fine-tuning knob. So once you actually lock it close to position, you can use the fine-tuning knob, and it's kind of hard for it to see, but it's very fine, to adjust the exact angle, and you get this to 15 degrees. And now you have three pieces of information. You have a 15-degree angle here, you have a 100-foot line, and then you have a 90-degree angle here. That allows you to figure out both how tall this line is as well as how long the hypotenuse is. And that's how you might use this for triangulation. And so that's what makes these kind of handies. They can actually do two things at once. These are not theodolites. Those are super complicated. I've only ever seen a couple of them. And of course, when you're looking at the stick, it has the same mechanism down here where you have a lock and then it moves just nice and freely. And then when you get it to the angle close to what you want, you'd lock it down. Most times you wouldn't really use this precision angle in most situations, because you're just using this to try to get actual heights, measuring off of the distance stick. But this does have precision angles just for certain situations where you are rotating it. And for instance, it can help in certain situations. Say you're building something where this is set up in the center, and you have, maybe a gazebo, and you have 6 different footings. Is you would put this in the center, and if you had 6 different footings, that would be a footing every 60 degrees. So what you do is you do your measurement, make sure it's in the middle of the circle, do your height measurement to get that footing at the right place, and then you might rotate this exactly 60 degrees, and then that's where your next, rotate it 60 degrees, make sure it's, centered, measure the same distance with the tape measure, and then do the height for the next footing, turn it 60 degrees, and so that's kind of the point of it. And so the whole reason they have these plumb bobs or built-in bubble levels is so that they can, and then here's once again, the proprietary threads that I have to figure out something for. So once again, once you get the tripod pretty well leveled, and the reason you're doing that is so you don't have to fiddle with these thumb wheels, because you really want to try to keep the thumb wheels as close to being absolutely centered as possible, or I should say level. That way the tripod's not all Catus wonky or all off angle, and then you're having to adjust a couple of these way out and a couple of these way in just to get it level. That's really a bad way of doing it. So the idea is that these are just really minor ones just for you to get the actual built-in level straight on. And then when you're using it, you would put this on the tripod, and of course you'd measure it one way, and then you'd rotate it 90 degrees, and then continue to adjust the feet until you can basically spin this all the way around, and that bubble stays absolutely centered. And it's actually really super accurate bubble. And so I did want to do a quick video about this. This is one of those tools which, surprisingly enough, even though they look a little bit different now, they're basically the same thing for a regular old mechanical builder's level. Otherwise, expensive, bigger construction companies use electronic and digital versions of these, which have built-in laser distance measures and GPS and all that kind of stuff to make it just a more simple process. Those laser ones, because you may even hear on a construction site some tools were going beep, 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 beep. And what that is those are more of a basic laser level where it's just the rotating head sending out a plane of laser light, and then you actually have a receiver on that measuring stick, and you just lift and lower the receiver, and where it starts to make a continuous tone, you're directly in line. And so that's kind of the quote-unquote one-man operation, and that's why those rotary laser levels are also pretty common, because where this will essentially require two people, because you still have to have somebody holding the yardstick while somebody is looking down this eyesight, telling them, okay, they need to go down a little bit or up a little bit until they get the center line. Anyway, I just thought this was a great old unit. Really surprising. This was actually a pretty high quality item from Montgomery Ward, and even when this was sold, whenever it was, 70s, 80s, 90s or something, it was probably well over $100 item. This was probably $200 or so. And you can easily tell just because all the casting work has just been all, there are no sharp edges. It's all the sharp edges have been broken before it was assembled, and the complexity of one of these is one of the reasons they are pretty expensive. And I thought I'd just share about this old Montgomery Ward Powr-Kraft, because one of the nice things about Montgomery Ward is that they, for a long time, actually had some pretty good tools that they were selling. And this is just evidence of one of them. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and are hoping you and your family and friends are staying safe and healthy. And if you haven't subscribed to the Catus Maximus channel, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out. Oh, another quick thing I did want to mention from before the days of real cheesy plastic cases, when they wanted to make a nice case, look at that. Fiberglass, molded fiberglass case. Been a while since tools have had these kind of things. So I did want to mention that. Unfortunately, the bottom plate, it's not fiberglass, it's Bakelite, which is okay for strength, but definitely pretty brittle. This case is, even though being fiberglass and with a Bakelite base, if you were to drop this thing, it would shatter that base. But still, quite a bit of expense to make a custom molded fiberglass piece.